fellow YouTubers. This is Karen S. and Deconverted Man and myself have teamed up to do a fallacy counting of the recent Refining Reason debate with Matt Dillahunty and Side 10 Bruggencate, and I've been tagged to review Si's first rebuttal. Before I begin, I want to give a short summation of the debate. Here's Sai stating his argument as to why it's reasonable to believe that God exists, as slightly edited by YouTuber Greg Mack.
Here's my argument. Premise 1. It's reasonable to believe that which is true. Premise 2. It's true that God exists. Conclusion. Therefore, it's reasonable to believe that God exists.
Matt's position that it's not reasonable to believe God exists was made in 3 points. 1. The claim hasn't been demonstrated to be reasonable. 2. There is no way to distinguish between God claims to determine which one is true. That would be inconsistent revelations. 3. There is no way to demonstrate supernatural causation. Lastly, here's presuppositionalism in a nutshell as presented at the beginning of the debate by Matt Dillahunty.
They merely presuppose that a God exists, assert that it's true, claim that everyone knows that God exists, claim that they can't be wrong, and then set themselves up as the standard bearers for their unsubstantiated solutions to the puzzles that plague philosophers.
And with that, let's plug the fallacy counter back in and rev it on up.
That's all we heard.
So, Sai starts off his rebuttal with a questionable analogy where he claims Matt admits he could be a brain in a vat. A brain in a vat is Sai's way of immediately attempting to reduce Matt's position to absurdity or solipsism because Sai thinks he has the only solution to that problem, which of course is an ambiguous Bible verse from his God, which explains nothing. Matt may have posed that it was a hypothetical possibility, but not as a reality. Therefore, Sai's misrepresentation through this analogy is nothing more than a straw man or straw Matt. My question for Sai would be, if this is true, does his God consider Matt to be just a brain in a vat instead of a real person? Sai's God could have cleared up the confusion right there, giving Sai certain knowledge so that he could get past the entire issue. But I digress.
10 minutes from somebody who can't know that he's not a brain in a vat.
Sai's appeal to consequence is that if you don't believe in his version of the Christian God, you will be reduced to a brain in a vat like Matt. But he has no way to demonstrate or provide evidence of his conclusion on this. And of course there is a question of what position that puts Sai in when he asks the question, as I will get into next.
Debates presuppose truth. Matt says truth is that which corresponds to reality. Matt admits he can't know what's real.
Performative inconsistency. I hear this proposition by precepts a lot, asking how we as atheists know we are in the right reality. Sai's recognition and communication with Matt presupposes that he is perceiving Matt's existence and reality as the same as his, regardless of whatever that reality might be. Even if Matt was a brain in a vat, Sai would be affirming he is merely an electronic signal going to Matt's brain. So Sai refutes himself when he asks that question. During the debate, despite his repeating the question many times, Matt never really addressed the performative inconsistency of the question. The best way I've ever seen this approach was when in an Alex Botten video a precept was offhandedly asked the time, because time is one of the most distinctive features of our existence and our reality. And in responding to that request, the precept is confirming he is just as much a part of it as the person he is questioning about it.
Everything he says so far is borrowing from my worldview.
Sai never adequately explains or demonstrates how Matt is borrowing from his worldview. Sai will repeat this claim quite a few times in the debate, so I will not be commenting on it as he repeats it.
You can't know anything to be true unless you start with God. Everyone here knows that God exists. Why don't I?
Special knowledge. A lot of atheists are enraged by this form of privilege blindness and trying to claim to know the thoughts of others. Always remember, Sai's asserted special knowledge of knowing others' thoughts is biblically based and therefore subjective, because there are many others who interpret the verses he uses to claim this differently than he does. And while the special knowledge is claimed, there is nothing to verify or check its supernatural origins.
Why don't I present evidence? Why don't I present evidence? Where do you hear evidence out in the world? In the court of law. Who do you present evidence to in court? The judge. When you come up to me and say you don't believe in God, and I present you with evidence, I'm saying that you're the judge.
So, what's the best excuse not to present evidence for the existence of a God? Tell the non-believer because it's a God, they have no right to ask. This could also be called an appeal to supernatural authority, and is definitely a way to avoid answering the question directly.
You're not the judge. God is the judge.
I'd also like to add that the question being debated is it reasonable to believe God exists? And Sai is saying here that God can only be the judge of whether he exists, which doesn't make any sense.
All of you know that he exists. When you come to a debate, you want to hear whether or not what we're arguing is true. You want to know if it's true that God exists. Well, tonight I'm going to wait to see if Matt ever tells me how he can know anything to be true according to his worldview.
Sai has no explanation for how Matt could not know anything to be true other than appeal to a supernatural God. He fails to demonstrate or give an argument as to why this is true.
We did talk about logical absolutes, and we do believe in all logical absolutes.
If biochemical reactions are all that you are thinking, then all that you can say is that what you perceive to be logically true and absolute and necessary is nothing more than the result of chemical reactions in your brain.
Agreed.
Matt agrees that his view on logic is a result of the chemical reaction in his brain. I mean, would you come here today and listen to a debate? It was a bottle of Dr. Pepper arguing against a bottle of Mountain Dew. You shake them up and you open them and they start to fizz. Which of those fizzes would be true? Neither. It's just fizz. If Matt's worldview is true, then our thoughts, our brains are just evolved meat machines. And our thoughts are the byproduct of the chemical reactions in our evolved brains.
Okay, I've covered this already. Sai is appealing to supposed adverse consequences of not believing in his God. But we will see as his discourse continues, he brings up another fallacy.
It's brain barf. He would be fizzing atheistically. I'm fizzing theistically. And you want to know which one of those is true. You can't get truth from that. You see, Matt's view on logical absolutes, as far as he knows, could be fed to him from a computer when he's a brain in a vat. Not really much more I have to say about that. Yeah, you can laugh all you want. No, I'll keep going. I'll just preach to you. Because as long as Matt is up here arguing with me, he's assuming things that he can't make sense with according to his worldview. He talked about knowledge and certainty. I didn't bring that up. I brought up truth. Matt assumes truth. You heard him define it. He can't get away from that. See, now I don't know how the rest of this debate is going to go, whether he's going to talk about alleged contradiction in Scripture. I mean, we're going to examine those things according to our presuppositions. I mean, I could stand up here and say, well, Matt says that it's always wrong to own humans, which he said on his show a number of times. But then on another show, he says that humans are just animals. You know, he even eats animals. I could show the inconsistency there. I could show that inconsistency.
An excellent example of this fallacy is you meet someone who smokes who tells you that smoking can cause lung cancer. Anyone would see that as being inconsistent, but the smoker is still correct to say smoking can cause lung cancer. Matt's admission that he's an animal who owns animals as pets has nothing to do with whether owning another human as a slave is wrong, because it's still true that slavery is wrong, just as smoking can cause lung cancer.
That's not the topic of this debate. It's reasonable to believe that God exists. Reason demands truth, and Matt can't make sense of truth without God. Everyone here knows that God exists, you know, and that's what I'm going to keep telling. And you know what? When I watch Matt's show, I agree with Matt more than I do the callers, the Christian callers that call in. The Christians that call into a show, most of them want to make me puke. I watch the debates he's done. I see on YouTube where he's debating this supposed to be some clergyman who denies the authority of Scripture. And people put on their Matt has finally challenged in debate. I think it's garbage. It's garbage.
Here, Sai tries to minimize and mock Matt's telephone conversations on the Atheist Experience show in an attempt to bias the audience against him.
I'm glad that we're finally here today. I hope that we do. See, I wanted a free exchange where Matt and I could just talk to each other, and guess what? The debate organizers didn't. That's right, you didn't, Sarah.
Then Cy tries to distract the audience with his complaints about the format of the debate. According to Deconverted Man, this could also be termed an unlicensed attempt to change the agenda, which is a formal fallacy, which is an error in the form or structure of the argument. I'm also calling it a red herring because it draws attention away from the debate topic. The rest of the fallacies identified are being repeated by Cy and have already been covered, so I won't be making any comment on them.
You didn't want that. And I said, well, I know Matt wants that. He doesn't like the formal debate. He wants just an exchange. I said, ask Matt. And they said, no, Matt, he doesn't want that either. He wants us to own the time of the questions. See, because otherwise the bully can take over. The bully can take over, and then it won't be, nobody will benefit from that. I said, that's Matt's show. The difference is he can't hang up on me here. And I'm glad that we're able to be here and discuss the truth. Just don't forget that. Listen to whether or not Matt can show you how he can know anything to be true. He says he could be a brain in a vat. Well, anything he says is borrowing from my worldview. Anything that he claims to be true, ask him to define it. See where that comes from. And, well, we'll see how that goes from now. Go on.
And then we go bitching and moaning to make a motherfucking drama out of that shit. Oh, it's so much fun making them dumb little bitches sweat. Ooh!
Total number of logical fallacies is 68, with 8 formal fallacies. This has been Karen S. Thanks for listening.